nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid podcast. This is your host, Kian Sobani. We are recording this about 10 or so minutes after Real Madrid dropped 2 points to Mallorca away from home. The score ended up being 1-1 in quite honest, to put it quite honest. I think Mallorca actually could have won that game. It wasn't a great performance from Real Madrid. We'll break it down. As a reminder, here at the Managing Madrid podcast, we are here to provide you with as much of a level-headed take as possible and to provide you with therapy. So this is not the place we come to pound fists and to flip over tables and to start crying and to start saying the sky is falling and everything needs to be changed. We're going to provide you with some therapy and just to give you some calma and remind you guys that it is the first game of the season. Things will improve and everything will be okay. Having said that, I think it's quite fair to analyze this one game in a vacuum and say that it was not a great performance. But I will just point out kind of what I thought was part of the problem today. And I also think that there are different phases of this game we can break down and try to just look at what went wrong, what worked, the very little that did work, and also just acknowledge the challenges. I actually looked at this game when I was going back all the way, when I was looking at the schedule before preseason started in the USA. And I noticed we have those 3 preseason games in the USA. And then we have the game against Atalanta. And then we have the game against Mallorca. I actually looked at this game as the toughest one. Obviously, the preseason games, it doesn't matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter who we're playing, what the score is, what happens in those games. The Atalanta game matters. And then there's this game. I think it's a stark reminder of what we deal with in La Liga, week in, week out, and the challenges that this team faces. The Atalanta game was always going to be way more open, which suits us more. And Mallorca, especially in recent history, is not an easy place to play. It is a place where we have seen lots of racist abuse being spouted at Vinicius Jr. It's a stadium where thugs like Pablo Maffeo and Antonio Rayo are emboldened to behave a certain way and get away with it. I think Maffeo should have had a red card by halftime. That challenge on Vinicius was ridiculous. The ball was nowhere close to it. There was an intent to injure Vinicius in that situation. It's not an easy place to play. So I looked at that. I was like, you know what? That's a banana peel. It's the first game of the season. There is a lot of hype around Real Madrid. There's a lot of excitement. We're in party mode. We're probably going to win the Super Cup. Mbappe's first La Liga game. There is a lot to get excited for, and it's not an easy game at all on the schedule. So I kind of circled this one as a banana peel. And I was really hoping we could pass it with flying colors. That did not happen. We didn't lose, but we did drop 2 points, and it was not easy at all. That second half, especially, the way that Mallorca barricaded the box was, wild. And quite frankly, I don't blame them for doing that. There's only so many ways you can beat this version of Real Madrid. And certainly opening up your defensive line against them is not one of them. I'm not really entirely sure. And as coming from someone who noted at halftime, because there were a couple beautiful sequences from us in the build-up phase, one of them which did not result in the goal. And it was, I don't know, I think it was somewhere around the 35th minute or so. I could be wrong on that, but the passing was beautiful and we didn't score from it, but the sequence was really exciting. And it was the one where Mbappe nearly gets a header on it, but the Mallorca goalkeeper, Grave, puts a hand on it, and that deflection was enough for it not to reach Mbappe. Had it reached Mbappe, that was almost a sure goal. So I looked at that sequence and I said, wow, so much of Real Madrid's struggles in La Liga are that they just can't play the way they want to, like they can in the Champions League. Against bigger teams in the Champions League who are more daring to venture forward, who press a little bit higher, who hold their line a little bit higher. It's just much more easy for us to get transition opportunities and rack up goals that way and get goal scoring chances. Whereas in La Liga, like you're going to be facing low blocks. So what a luxury to have Mbappe on the field, and his gravitation alone creates so many chances for us. Granted, like I and probably you guys watching, unless you're an absolute visionary, probably expected this game to end 2 or 3-0 instead of 1-1 at halftime anyway. And I was really surprised the way the second half unfolded. Obviously, that had to do with the fact that Muriqi scored in a set piece. And that completely flipped the game state because no longer did Mallorca need to go and chase the game. A draw is a great result for them. And if they, they can go into that low barricade. And if they can nick another goal somewhere, that's a complete bonus for them. Otherwise, this is a win for them. Anytime we face Muriqi, whether it's with Mallorca or in prior years, it was actually he was with Osasuna. I always caution everybody by saying, look, if we're going to concede against this team, it's going to be a Muriqi set piece. It's happened to us before, and it happened today, and a Muriqi set piece goal was where it came from. That when Muriqi headed and Rudiger kind of just mistimed the jump and it went over his head. Muriqi flew in for a great header, has to be said. That completely changed the game state. So all of a sudden you had these situations where you had our players breaking lines and getting into the box and feeding passes into Mbappe. That just became super, 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 super difficult as the game wore on because Mallorca it was 10, often 11 people in the box for them. It seemed like 800 because I'm not sure what you can do. And for all of the people yelling about Real Madrid's performance, I actually think some of them are yelling about the wrong things. One of them is Lucas, and as you guys know, I don't talk about anyone behind their back unless I can say it to their face. And as you guys know, when I record with Lucas, I'm gonna confront him about this. But I think he was yelling about the wrong things about Bellingham's positioning in midfielder. He's not a midfielder, or even just like I actually firmly believe that we're gonna miss Cruz a lot because he's Tony Cruz and the way he controls the tempo and his pausa, his ability to find the right pass over and over again is going to be sorely missed, and his press resistance, his composure, leadership, etc. I actually thought in this game, what we missed more than a Cruz was a Joselu type presence. When you're facing a low block like that, and you're trying to, Pep Guardiola himself has said this so many times. The best way to break a low block is actually just to pump crosses and hope for chaos and rebounds and miss clearances and all that stuff. And, we just didn't have that. And we're not going to have that. And we may not have that for years, quite frankly, because even when we didn't have Joselu, we didn't really have that. I mean, Benzema was really great in the air, but Joselu was a different kind of beast with that specific profile. So we're going to miss that. Are we going to miss it every game? No, but given that we play against low blocks so much, it's definitely going to be something we're going to miss. And we missed it in today's game. Now, I also think our passing was oddly off in this game. And I don't know what it was. Dani Carvajal, who has been in great form for about 2 years now, had a really poor game. On defense, he was fine. I mean, I don't think it was his defense so much, but his I think one play that summed it up for me was that in the 84th minute, when Real Madrid could actually won the ball in a good position and put pressure on Mojica, he just stared at Mojica from a distance instead of pressing him. even though we had everything covered behind him, he could have pressed. And he looked just gassed. There was zero counter pressing left in him. And then, like, after that play, Vasquez pops up and the 3 subs are made, which is another talking point. We'll talk about the subs in a second. But his touches were poor. His passes were poor. He made a couple good overloads, but the final ball was just killed the attack. Also, like, his diagonal crossing, he's usually pretty reliable, and it's one of his best traits. But today he would look up, and I thought, like, he actually forced crosses in situations. Like, there was one in the first half early when our only player in the box is Kylian Mbappe, who's heavily marked. And it's Mbappe. Like, one of his weaknesses is his aerial presence. He's in the second percentile in that regard. He does not do well with headers. And I think a simple pass to Tchouaméni, who was open at the top of the box, would have been a much better option. But Carvajal was just one of many. Rudiger was another one who his passing was really uncharacteristically poor. His giveaways really put us in tough positions. Modric off the bench, and I hate to say it, looked really, although he tried to control the tempo, his passing was also really poor as well. I thought Vinny, especially later on, started to force the issue a little bit. Granted, that one I kind of see as a little bit more excusable, in part because when you're facing a low block, there's only so many sideway passes you can take, and you need someone to just take players on and break lines. So he was trying to do the right thing, but he also gave the ball away a lot in those situations, and actually we conceded some transition attacks. It's kind of a shame because I actually thought, and I don't know if this will go under the radar, and it probably should, quite frankly, because it didn't result in a goal at all. But I actually thought Mbappe in the second half was really doing the right things and growing into the game. His runs into the half spaces, his combination play with Bellingham looked really, really encouraging to me. His shoulder drops, he was getting past his man. He had that signature cut in and shot the near post, which was a little bit unlucky. It got deflected. So we weren't able to maximize Mbappe growing into the game in the second half. But that's also, like, welcome to La Liga, Mbappe. You're going to face a shit show of defenders, like just an unbelievable amount of players are standing in your way defensively. There's only so much you can do. You're going to really have to pull things out of your ass on an individual level. That's part of the reason why you're here, because you have that individual brilliance. That's part of the reason why so many times we've needed individual brilliance to bail us out, from Vinicius, from Benzema, from Rodrigo, etc. So it was tough. Look, it was tough to break this team down. I think a lot of our problems actually started even before that final pass. Like, our passing was really poor. And, I think people really underestimate how difficult it is to break down a defensive line like this when we're criticizing the attacking players. So I wanted to put that out there. But I also think we also were poor all over the field. Like, it wasn't just the inability to break down the low block. But I do think it's important to note that it's really hard to break it down. Going back to the first half, because I think I lost track of the point I was initially making. What we saw in that sequence that didn't result in a goal was exactly what you want to face a low block. But I think at that point, it wasn't quite as barricaded as it became in the second half after Muriqi scored. Going back all the way to the goal, that was brilliant. I mean, there was a moment of magic from the link up between Bellingham and Mbappe again in that moment was incredible. The Vinicius counter press to win the ball back, which I think was from Maffeo, which was extra satisfying. And then the back heel and the Rodrigo composure and finish was also great. One more point about Mbappe I forgot to make. I think one of his most underrated traits is his off-ball movement. He's so smart with his cuts, and he's quicker than anyone else, which makes him impossible to track. Like, if he is at the near post or far post, he'll just do one quick shoulder drop off the ball. The defender thinks he's going one way, and before he knows it, Mbappe's already gone, and he's getting a goal-scoring chance. And he has just these, like, he had one in the first half where Vinicius plays this really good ball into the box, and Mbappe comes out of nowhere from, like, flying from halfway line, just sprints into the box, and no one can track him in that situation because he's just so quick, and also he's so good at tricking defenders going the wrong way. Tchouaméni's distribution was a little bit better today. Uh, that I mean, and it was much better actually, like much better. I think part of it maybe was down to the fact that Mallorca did not press at all, and they just went into that lower block, so that gave him a little bit more freedom on the ball. But nevertheless, his distribution was much better. Um, we struggled a little bit with Mojica, kind of controlling him, and Rodrigo let Mojica buy him a couple times, and Mojica I think had a good game, and I think he was a source of fuel for that left wing for Mallorca. On the opposite side, um, one of the things that again will get lost because this was drop points is that Bellingham was incredible defensively on that wing. Whether it was Asano, whether it was Maffeo, three times Bellingham went in for incredible slide challenges on Maffeo and won it cleanly. Bellingham was a huge reason Vinny had freedom to go up on that side. He controlled counterattacks on him by himself. His transition defense was incredible, and I thought Bellingham had another really good game. And again, like he had his passing under pressure was exceptional. That he had a couple really great passes into the box to Mbappe. One of them nearly resulted in a goal. I thought Bellingham had a really good game. He was far from our problem tonight, which was again like it was just going to be really hard to break this team down. And out of all the people who had poor games with their passing, Bellingham definitely was not one of them. Let me just take a quick peek to see if there's super chats. Sorry guys, I've just ignored the chat. Here we go. Alex Steiberg says, tough game as always. It still feels like we are missing a striker in the box these games, and a playmaker in midfield would have unlocked more offense. Right. So that reminds you. So we did talk about the missing a striker, and we talked about, not having the Joselu profile in the squad anymore. This goes back to our subs. I think we could have used Goulier sooner. And look, Goulier had like what? It was a 5 minutes because like Ancelotti, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was trying to make the subs around the 81st minute mark. That's when the three subs lined up. It was Vasquez, Brahim, and Arda Güler. And the ball stayed in play for a bajillion years. So I think by the time the sub actually was made, let me check how long it actually took. 88. So that, if I'm not mistaken, that's about a 7-minute window where they're just standing there waiting for the ball to go out of play. So the late sub became even later because of that. So Arda Güler had like 3 minutes plus the 5 minutes of injury time where the ball is barely in play to make a difference. And obviously Brahim too, who's a line breaker, and Vasquez probably should have replaced Carvajal, who looked gassed a little bit sooner too, although that one was probably less urgent. Güler is just, he has a composure on the ball and a passing ability and a crossing ability and a progressive passing ability and ability to control a tempo. And he's a good finisher. He's a good shooter, which is also helpful against low blocks. That's a profile I think we could have used sooner. And I think we've been making a lot of late subs, maybe because Ancelotti feels that there are a lot of players who just are a little bit untouchable and they need to play. And it's hard to make subs, although Vinny did come off today. Gouler's profile, I think, could have been used sooner. And also Brahim, even though he's similar to Rodrigo in that he takes players on and he works hard defensively and he can roam around the field and across the front three, just maybe the burst of energy would have been helpful too, a lot sooner. So the subs came a little bit too late for me, and they came at a time where right, I lost my train of thought. They also came at a time where it just was prolonged because the ball didn't go out of play. Going back to the point about the midfielder who would have unlocked the defense, I mean, Modric is supposed to be that guy. I as I said previously, I don't think he had a good game off the bench. His passing was off a little bit uncharacteristically. I've said this a bunch already, even though we're only 2 games in. I think Goulier needs to grow into the team because I think he helps in this situation. And as you guys know, I asked Ancelotti about this in the preseason, and he said Goulier can play in the midfield 3. So when we're talking about ability to control and progress the ball, I think he's someone. Him and Modric are going to be 2 players who are going to have to play a little bit more, especially in games like this. Shayon Saha super chat says, "We will never play eye-catching football under Ancelotti. It's just vibes and wait for a miracle." Look, I mean, this is a little bit reactionary. I think the titles speak for themselves. So let's just remember that this is La Liga away games throughout Real Madrid history have pretty much always been like this. Like they're not easy. They're not easy when you're facing this many players in the box and you're facing like all these distractions and all the physical abuse, all the verbal abuse, and all the fact that there's a million players in the box that you have to break down. It's just not easy. And like in terms of like eye-catching football, I mean, you saw a bunch of incredible sequences in the first half, and in the second half, they were holding the ball and trying to find an opening. So I'm not sure what else you really could have done if you were Ancelotti, other than make maybe sooner or subs sooner. Okay, let me just run through my notes. I did want to share my screen to just go over some of the analytics as well. Hold on a sec. Okay, here we go. So this is the best bot on football Twitter. It is called MarkStatsBot. It's a good reference to go in because it automatically puts out all the analytics for the game. So you can see here on my screen, XG, Mallorca 1.4, Real Madrid 0.62. So you can see the discrepancy right there. Even though Real Madrid had 65% possession, they only generated an XG of 0.62 with Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, and Rodrigo all on the field together, which is concerning. And we can say this is a whole low block thing. It's difficult, but the reality is, look, this is what's going to be you're going to be facing every game. Do you think other La Liga teams are going to be looking at Mallorca play and be like, oh, they should have attacked more? No, hell no. They're going to be looking at this Mallorca blueprint and they see the scouting report. Okay, so here are the ways you can agitate Real Madrid. 1, low block. 2, kick the shit out of them. 3, get the crowd into it. 4, take advantage of their poor set piece defending and profit. So this is going to be an ongoing problem. And as much as I personally believe that, it's a cheat code to have Mbappe in the team and everyone would want him, the reality is that the more superstar players you add to your team, the more the defense gets closed. Now, this is actually a good number to also reflect maybe more than XG. 1.44 was our expected threat, which is a little bit higher. This means that we got into good goal scoring positions, but maybe it didn't register as a shot on goal or a shot at all. So it doesn't show up in the XG. So we got into, but again, like when we got into those situations, we were often swarmed. Our shooting boots were off or our passing boots were off. Field tilt, that just basically shows you how much we had the ball in Mallorca's third. And I think he had Bellingham as the standout performer for Real Madrid. Yeah. Successful pass is 63. Progression via pass 5.6. So you can see that he is just his ball progression here. You can see it, especially if you look right here where the mouse is. And these are where his passes were. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. It's always a good indication. I'm actually going to check out Understat too, because Understat will show you where the shots were from. So I'll bring that up in a second here too. Maybe they're not up yet. Yeah, they're here. But this is a huge chance that Muriqi had, that this was, I think, cleared off the line by Militao, if I'm not mistaken, who actually had a good game. I thought Militao had a much better game than Rudiger. And he looked good against Atalanta too. You can see you can see by this chart here, we didn't have clear-cut chances. This was the biggest chance, 24th minute, Mbappe. This is the one where Vinicius gets it to him from the left side. When I was talking about Mbappe's off-ball movement, he sprints from basically over here, off the ball, gets here, and then it was a tough angle because it was closed at the near post, so it was defenders there. And then this one was Vinny from the right side. Again, you see a decent volume of chances, but look where these chances are from. High on the right side, outside the box. Like, these are not good goal-scoring positions. And we were in these situations because we were facing a low block, and most of these were probably blocked. Modric 80th minute, Rodrigo 80th minute, Vinicius 63, Militao 46, Rudiger 20. This was the long distance one. So all of these are late except for the Rudiger one, and this was just us scrambling, trying to find a way. And the only solution we found was basically to shoot it from distance, which again, it can't be your only solution. And this is why losing Jose Luis is so tough. It's so tough. I think there was a couple more super chats. I'll get to them in a sec. Cheyenne says we should go back to the diamond formation. Again, it's the formation was not the issue today, guys. Like the formation is not going. If you put Bellingham in a diamond, you think all of a sudden you're not going to be in a situation to you're not going to be a situation facing a low block. Like Bellingham in a diamond roams just like he did today. This is a 4-4-2 on paper, but it's really a 4-2-3-1. Bellingham is still in a diamond. It just looks a little bit different. And I like going back to changing a formation here is not gonna solve anything for me. Ural Desai says, "What are your thoughts on the Mendy red card?" I mean, it looked like a challenge out of frustration for me. I think by the books, I'm fine that was a red card. It was a high boot on the leg, but if we're being consistent, I think Maffeo should have been sent off too for putting his foot on Vinicius's cap in the first half, which the ball wasn't even close to it. I'm going to do a quick scroll through my notes. I'm actually going to also just check really quickly to see if Carlo has spoken yet, because he goes first. He's the away coach, so he probably has, unless he's in the locker room with the team, still speaking with the team, because sometimes they come out late. Yeah, here we go. Ancelotti quotes are out. By the way, if you guys want to follow along post-game stuff, just go to the Managing Madrid Twitter account. They're active after the game, just putting out quotes during any press conference. So Ancelotti says, we started the match well. We got ahead, and we could have scored the second. In the second half, we lacked balance. It is a match that we could have lost due to not having balance. Not a good match. We are a very offensive team, and defensive balance is a fundamental part. Yeah, so this one thing that I said, if you guys had read the Managing Madrid Roundtable, which is pinned on the website right now on managingmadrid.com, I think one of the questions was something like, are you concerned about anything? What are you concerned about? And I said one thing only, the defense, the depth in the defense if we have an injury, God forbid. And I'm not really concerned about the offense. I will have to say, watching today's game, I should rephrase it to say we're going to suffer on both ends of the field facing low blocks if we can't figure it out, because not only are we going to be having a difficult time to score goals in these situations, but we're also going to be vulnerable defensively too. So Ancelotti really has to figure that out. On the late subs, Ancelotti says maybe they were late. Everyone has their own opinion. I don't want to make excuses. We can learn a lot from this game. Just talks about the interchangeability of Mbappe and Vinicius. He'll rotate more when the Champions League starts. Right now, it's difficult for us to steal the ball, to apply pressure after losing the ball. When we talk about the defensive aspect, we talk about all the collective commitment. I think it's important to note also here, it's important. He says it was difficult for us to apply pressure after losing the ball. That's a really important point too, because if you had a little bit more energy, which it was clear to me that the team was gassed, the counter press can help you artificially generate transition opportunities. And that was one thing that I think was lacking, was the counter press. And the team looked tired to me. I'm not going to sit here and explain why the team looked tired, but the team looked tired. But Ancelotti says it's not a physical problem, it's a mental one. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the most important post-game quotes. So yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's one more super chat, and I'll take that. Zafri says, was hoping we'd be in more control of the games with all of our talent. There are still large periods where we're letting teams have the ball to attack us. Yeah, I mean, I think this is Ancelotti. Ancelotti's mode of thinking is that he's okay with giving the ball up because he knows that having less of the ball probably means more transition opportunities for Mbappe, Vinicius, Jude, Rodrigo, etc. So that's part of the reason why Ancelotti is okay with not having possession in those situations. Certainly, like especially when watching the second half, it's not control that we needed. Like I, we didn't need any more control. We needed incisiveness. I would have gladly let Mallorca have the ball in our half just to get them out of their shell. That was the problem, right? So I understand why there are certain times where Ancelotti gives away possession for that reason. Um, would we like to see more control and offensive, fluid offensive football? Yeah, of course. There's no denying that. But certainly, like not all teams are gonna um, just have this open defensive structure and let you play that kind of football. But yeah, I would like to see it too, Zafri. But I think in today's game, I don't know if there was a lack of control. In the second half, I think what was more the situation was like it was just difficult breaking down the low block. Uh, and Giotti Bordoli, hope I said that correctly. Our YouTube member says, I don't understand why there are so few players in the box and we're not pressing the goalkeeper like past years now. Yeah, okay. So this is, I think, part of the problem of trying to find a solution to break this down is that Mbappe, Vinny, and Rodrigo often occupy the same positions, even Jude as well. So this is why, going back for the 100th time in this podcast, the lack of a Joselu archetype would have, it hurt us in a game like this. But Mbappe was the one who was more in the box. But the thing is, like, even when Goulet had this play at the very end of the game, it was like one of the last kicks of the game. He faked a cross with his right, cut it back, and put a cross in with his left, and I think the cross was blocked. You look in the box in that scenario, there's like, who's scoring in that situation, right? And I think these are all things that Ancelotti has to figure out. Like, I don't have all the answers sitting here either. Like, and that's why I can't sit here and give answers either. But these are just situations that Ancelotti needs to solve. Low block, the lack of an aerial presence. You probably have to just send Tchouameni and Rudiger and Militao forward as pseudo strikers, the way Zidane would do with Ramos and Casemiro late in games when he couldn't figure it out either. So you're basically relying on link up and ingenuity from Mbappe and Vinny and co. And, a rebound, someone flying in from defense to score with a header. So, yeah. I don't have answers, guys, but I have questions just like you do. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I know the chat is popping off. I'm sure it's all beautiful, positive things. So I'm so happy that we have a space for you guys to do that. We'll be back for sure Tuesday, but possibly tomorrow too. So actually, the plan is the day after every single game, we do something called El Dia Después, and that's only for members. So if you want to jump on, we do at least 2 bonus shows, but now we're aiming for 2 to 3 bonus shows for our members. You can go to patreon.com/managingmadrid, or if you can, if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't have Patreon in your country, it doesn't work for you, just hit the join button underneath this video, and you can just join YouTube membership. It's the same content. By the way, if you're on the fence about becoming a member, now is the best time because September 1st, our prices go up. But if you join before September 1st, you'll be grandfathered in at the price forever, the price you'll be paying now. So if you're on the fence, just join membership before September 1st. We'll see you guys tomorrow. If you're a member, remember, season is long, and it's the first game of the season. We got a long way to go and a lot of good moments to come this season. So chin up. Hope this therapy was valuable, and if not, if I only made you more angry, I apologize for that. I guess I'm not the right man for this job. Thanks, guys. Kian Sobani signing off. And as always, Hala Madrid.